I do want to crack back on today with Heidi, my hearing aid beige Mk2 Escort moredoor. Backing pad acquired for my DA sander. Now I have been speaking to A.L. Developments. They've helped me identify a mistake that I've made. The rain hasn't eased off one bit, and then spreaded it all over the areas in between the masking tape. Well, it's fair to say that this car is absolutely bonkers in this weather. It wants to spin. All these Cortinas parked outside the world famous Ace Cafe. Disaster. Hello and welcome to this video. I'm Marcus Hayes, and today you join me on what's set to be a very busy day. There's actually two meets at the Ace Cafe today. One which is a Cortina meet and one which is a Passion Ford North London meet. So I'm hoping to attend both of those, but I do want to crack back on today with Heidi, my hearing aid beige Mk2 Escort moredoor. The weather's not looking great at the moment, which might hinder my progress with Heidi slightly, but first things first, before I do anything, I'm going to stop off at the car paint shop to pick up a pad for my DA sander. Now, the car paint shop that's near my garage that I normally go to is closed today, but luckily there's another one just down the road from where I live. Backing pad acquired for my DA sander. I wasn't able to get one that actually suits my sander, so I bought a threaded adapter online. I think I mentioned that in the last video. So now this should just screw in to the sander, fingers crossed. And that means I've got everything I need to get Heidi's engine bay in epoxy primer, apart from the heater bubble. But my carbon supplier, GARRY, has actually just made a mould for a carbon fibre heater bubble, and he said he's going to send me the metal one when he's finished with it, as well as a carbon one for my Mk1 Escort. Although I've actually got a carbon bubble coming all the way from Australia from a guy who has also got a YouTube channel. I'll put a link to it in the description. But yeah, if you're watching this video, mate, a massive thanks. I haven't received it yet, but let's just hope it gets through the post. So yeah, Heidi's heater bubble, I'll decide later on if I'm going to weld it up or if I'm just going to use some matting and some fiberglass to bodge it. But you know, I should be able to get the rest of it in epoxy primer now that I've got all the materials that I need. While I'm on the way to the garage, I want to talk about a couple of things. With regards to Esther, my ST170 powered Mk1 Escort, and her dyno session. Now, I've had a lot of people getting in touch with their opinions, which is always appreciated. But, you know, I've had people saying that, yeah, there's definitely something wrong with the engine, or definitely something wrong with the tune. It's definitely starved of fuel. The ignition timing is definitely wrong. The VVT map is definitely wrong. Now, you need to understand that my tuner, Chris Todd, is one of, if not the best in the game. He owns an 8.5 second Mk1 Fiesta drag racing car. He's the chief engineer of Fraudster drag racing team, which is a 7-second Mk1 Escort drag racing car. He's been tuning his whole life. He's very expensive. He has a very long waiting list of people that are waiting for tuning sessions. So I have 1,000,000% confidence in Chris's abilities and in the fact that he got as much as he could out of Esther's engine on the day. Now, I know that there's one guy in particular out there that's got a very similar setup to Esther's. In fact, I think it's exactly the same, except he's got a different brand of throttle bodies. And with his ported A.L. Development cylinder head, he made 210 horsepower. But that was on a different dyno. I also don't know how much that cylinder head was skimmed. And what you need to understand is, the great thing about A.L. Developments is they'll build a cylinder head to your requirements. Now, A.L. Developments know that Esther is a road car. We also discussed about future development in terms of camshafts, and he advised me that if I was going to go with some Larry cams later on where you retain the VVT, which I probably am going to do because I want to keep it as a road car, you know, I don't want to lose the drivability, then that means that you don't want to skim so much off the head. So it was only skimmed for flatness. A lot of people have seen great results skimming 1mm off of an ST170 head, but I didn't want to then render the engine unsuitable for a set of VVT uprated cams. Now, I have been speaking to A.L. Developments since the dyno session, and they've been, you know, just scratching their heads a bit and trying to figure out if there is any particular reason why we didn't hit 200 horsepower. And they've helped me identify a mistake that I've made, and that is that I didn't measure the clearances between the camshafts and the buckets. And that's definitely something that I'm going to do. And if I find that the gaps were too big, you know, and, you know, then I'll go and do whatever I need to close them up. I think you need to actually change the buckets on ST170. I don't think you can shim them. But yeah, if I find that they're wrong, once I set them to be correct, I will take the car back for a power run. A.L. Developments have said that the mapping shouldn't need changing based on, you know, if I do need to adjust those gaps. So yeah, we'll find out in due course if, you know, those gaps are the reason why we didn't hit 200 horsepower. But in terms of uprating the cams, I've definitely got no plans in the near future to do that. You know, I haven't got that kind of money lying around, and it probably won't happen until maybe winter time or maybe early next year. It will be the next stage of development. I really do want to hit 200 horsepower, but there's loads of other stuff I want to do on the car as well. I still want to fit plastic windows, which might give me the same increase in speed as getting it to 200 horsepower. So yeah, I'll keep you updated in terms of, you know, what I find when I do measure those gaps. But yeah, all this nonsense about the tune not being right, yeah, I'm not entertaining any opinions like that. Although, you know, I am happy to hear anyone's opinions about anything I do with my cars in general. All right, so I've made it to Heidi's garage, and the rain hasn't eased off one bit. Now, it's not particularly heavy, admittedly, but still not going to be pulling this thing out unless it dries up a bit later on. Now, there is one thing I forgot to mention on the way down here, and that is that very recently I had the pleasure of meeting a subscriber called Teemu Vartanen and his missus. Now, they are from Finland, but they were in London on holiday, and yeah, we basically met up and had a coffee. Now, Teemu has always been really supportive of what I'm doing on YouTube. He's a Patreon. He's quite a few times chucked extra money in my PayPal account. So yeah, if you're watching, Teemu, massive thanks for your ongoing support, and it was great to meet you and your missus in London recently. Now, I haven't done anything to this car since we made a start on prepping the engine bay. I'm actually quite surprised how the bare metal bits haven't gone super rusty. I will be giving those bits a tickle before I cure rust and primer them. But I've actually had more issues involving this sander. Now, I'm pretty sure that when I looked online, I read that the sanding pads, the thread for them, so this thread here is M6. And what I discovered recently is that my machine is M5, and I bought this threaded adapter which goes from M5 to M6. So when I went in the shop today and asked for a sanding pad, and I did actually say M6, I assumed that this was just going to screw into my adapter, but that is not the case. Now, this thread here, it actually says on here, is 5/16 by 24, so it's some sort of imperial thread. It was probably closer to M8 than M6, to be honest. Now, I have now modified it so that it does screw into the machine using my tap and die set. I was actually going to try and drill this out to M8 and just see if that thread was close enough to M8 to actually screw in, but what I did instead is I used the bit of the tap and die set that cuts male threads, and yeah, I was able to go down the sizes until I got an M6 thread cut onto it. So this now does screw in to the adapter. And it means I've got a DA sander again, but I won't be pulling the generator out and using the DA until it dries up, hopefully later on today. But what I am going to crack on with inside the garage is getting some fiberglass filler in these areas where the welding was done by Chris Kember at Clump Fab to basically hide the job, so make it look more original. Chris has already ground the welds down, and yeah, I'm just literally going to use fiberglass filler to try and hide this welding job. Now I'm going to dig out the primer first because I think the fiberglass filler sticks better to bare metal, but I'll be able to use the portable drill with a wire brush to do that. And then, yeah, I'm going to chuck a skim of fiberglass over these welds. I'm literally just going to try and put it just over the welds for the first skim. You know, keep the skim nice and small. And, yeah, then we'll see where we're at. It'll need a sand and no doubt some more fiberglass filler. I've got to do a similar job down the bottom of the passenger side as well. And the reason I'm using fiberglass filler is it's a bit stronger than normal body filler, and it doesn't sink as much over time as normal body filler, but it is rock hard to sand. That's the downside. So yeah, I'm going to cue some music and crack on with this. Once I dug out all the primer from the welds on the inner wings, I degreased and then masked around those areas. I then mixed up the fiberglass filler with hardener and then spreaded it all over the areas in between the masking tape. Alright, for a first skim it is looking really good. Definitely got plenty in there, and the tape meant that I didn't get loads where I didn't want it. Yeah, this side's probably going to take a bit longer to go off because this side I actually had to knock up some more fiberglass filler, and as you can see it's more red because the percentage of hardener is more. Yeah, that's actually already gone off, and I think before it goes super hard I'm going to pull the tape off. Yeah, so I've definitely gone too thick at the edges. Should have tried to feather it out a bit, but you know, these bits here where the tape was underneath it, once that's really dry, they'll just snap off because it's not stuck to the panel. And it's a similar story over here. You've got these bits here that if I didn't have the tape there, that would have meant that that seam where the chassis meets the inner wing would have ended up getting filled, which I didn't want to do. But yeah, you know, once it's really gone off, then bits will just snap off. And then when I'm sanding it, the edges will end up getting feathered. So I think I'm going to give that fiberglass filler a good while to go off properly. And in the meantime, I'm going to head down to the Ace Cafe and see who, if anyone, has turned up for the Cortina meet. And as much as I know that it's a really bad idea because of the weather, I'm going to take Esther.
It's fair to say that this car is absolutely bonkers in this weather. Just wants to spin. So yeah, we'll take it easy.
Everyone's having a bit of a shuffle round. They obviously want to get their pictures outside the world famous Ace Cafe. I've got Esther tucked over here in the corner, because she shouldn't really be in here because she's not a Cortina, although there's a console over there as well. But yeah, so cool to see, you know, a bunch of Cortinas all in the same place. And yeah, I'm sure there would have been more if the weather wasn't so ropey. Over here we've got a couple of Mark III Cortinas. This one's obviously a GXL according to the badge on the front. Actually loving the patina on this. I hope they leave it as it is rather than minting it out. Got a 2 litre Mark III next to that, and I'm sure at some point this is going to get the bonnet sprayed black to match the rest of it. A really cool Mark III over here. Loving the orange stripes against the blue paint. Loving the Dunlop rims that it's sitting on as well. Over here we've got the console that I just mentioned. Rocking the Union Jack because it's actually Coronation Day today. Yeah, these things are so cool. Loving the white wall tyres on it. And just check out those seat covers. Oh my days. Really like these sort of sun visor things, I think they're called, that these have. Yeah, really cool console. Next to that, Mark III 4-door that I actually saw at the Oh So Retro show last year. This one's heavily modified. I think they're slot mag rims, might be wrong. Loving the side pipes. This is actually jacked up at the back, which was what people used to do in the 70s. And yeah, look at the t-shirts on the seats as seat covers. Some sort of aftermarket steering wheel, looks like a Mountain one to me. And yeah, still got the back seats and stuff. GXL, it's got a rear window louver, cheeky spoiler on the back. And yeah, loving the jacked up stance. Let's see if it's got a Larry rear axle on it. Oh, they've painted it red. Well, there's an awesome sight. A load of Mark IV and 5 Cortinas all lined up outside the Ace Cafe in the rain. I'm pretty sure I've seen this blue estate one before. Really cool. Love a long roof. And I think they're Capri rims that it's sitting on. Might be wrong. Next to that, really cool brown 2.8. Yeah, it's a 2.8 gear. Love the front splitters. Oh, it's a 2.3 gear, not a 2.8. Yeah, love these front splitters. Next to that, a really smart blue one sitting on mini light rims. Love that. Really cool white one next to that. Again, sitting on mini light rims, this time in gold. Loving the look of this one with the front splitter on it and the spotlights. This is a Mark V, I believe, and it's sitting on steelies that are very similar to Escort ones, but I think they're wider. Loads of Union Jacks over it because of the Coronation, of course. Loving the wooden Mountain steering wheel. Really cool. Loving all the wood in the interior. Next to that, the 3 litre S, which you would have seen the bonnet up in the clips that I ran round and got with my gimbal. This thing's awesome. Again, with the splitter at the front and the spotlights. And again, I think they're Capri rims. Might be wrong. Loving the blue stripes down it and stuff. Got some Cobra bucket seats in there that have actually got a Ford badge embroidered on them. The owner said we can have a look inside. Yeah, this is really smart. Loving those bucket seats. And it looks like they've had the door cards and that trim to match. Loving the wood on the dash. Really cool Cortina badge on the dash there. And a faux orange air freshener. Next to that, a really tasty white Mark IV. Plenty of chrome around it and stuff. And loving this beige one next to that. Check that out. And check out the interior as well. Oh, that's awesome. And then last but certainly not least, this really cool red Mark V, which is actually running and sounds so quiet. And this one's sitting on some really interesting rims. Not sure what they're called. Awesome. But yeah, as I say, really cool sight with all these Cortinas parked outside the world famous Ace Cafe. All right, that was a cool little meet. Chatting to a couple of the guys that actually told me about a really cool Cortina event, which is on the border of England and Wales apparently. All Fords are welcome. I'll see if I can attend that one. But right now, I'm going to get myself back to the garage and we can start sanding down that fiberglass. Well, the rain is even worse than it was earlier, but apparently it's going to be clearing up this evening for when I'm planning to go back down the Ace Cafe again. But yeah, this is terrible. Anyway, the fiberglass is now fully cured. Now these bits should just snap off now, like so. I've just had a look in this garage and I don't have any of my heavier sandpaper discs, like 40 grit and 80 grit, but I do have this 80 grit aluminium oxide paper, which is, you know, what you'd use in your house. And yeah, because it's 80 grit, it's nice and rough, so this will be all right to do the initial sanding of the fiberglass filler. And I'm going to use this block to just try and keep things flat. So let's have some more music and crack on with this boring manual labour. It's too much hard work. Let's get the generator out. Disaster. So earlier on I dropped this with the pad attached, which has obviously put a bit of strain on this threaded adapter thing, and yeah, I was able to screw it in and get it to bite, but it obviously cross-threaded, and yeah, as soon as I tried to use this on that filler a minute ago, this just fell off. And then I started trying to resort to tapping the machine out to M6, which is what this is now, because I, you know, tapped it earlier on. And yeah, I'm not having much luck at all. You know, you've got to try and hold the tap straight and screw it in and hold the button on the machine to stop this thing spinning. So yeah, I've basically mullered that now, and I think the best option in terms of trying to save this machine and get it to be usable is to buy another brand new pad and then take the machine to Carlo, the precision engineer, and see if he can tap this to, you know, whatever this is, 5/16. Yeah. And if that don't work, then this thing's going in the bin and I'm buying a new one. It's been weeks now that I've been trying to get this machine to accept a pad so I can crack on with this engine bay. Anyway, for now, I need to carry on with sanding this down without the use of this. So I cracked back on with sanding the inner wing by hand, but then I decided to try using a flat wheel on a drill because I thought it'd be a bit quicker. But this didn't really keep things flat, so I went back to the sandpaper. Then I decided to try using a Stanley blade, which actually worked really well on some of the really lumpy bits. After that, I cracked on with the sandpaper on a sanding block and then dusted it all off and sprayed on some epoxy primer. Then did the same thing on the other side. Well, after about an hour and a half of sanding, I'm done for the day. I did actually try again to tap a thread onto the DA sander because, yeah, this job is just a nightmare doing it with sandpaper by hand, especially seeing as I haven't got the right sandpaper to use. Now, you would have seen that I covered the areas in primer, but they're nowhere near finished. I just decided to spray some primer on just so that the bare metal areas around the patch of fiberglass stay rust free. You can see still plenty of sanding to do to feather out the fiberglass, and then it's going to need some body filler on top of that. I mean, you can now not see the welds, I suppose, that's something. But yeah, this side especially still needs a load of sanding. This side actually don't look that bad, but, you know, it's still far from sanded. But yeah, I don't think it's worth doing this job without a DA sander. And obviously today I thought I was going to have the luxury of a DA sander. And yeah, we've got another bank holiday now, so I won't be able to go and see Carlo for at least another 3 days. Hopefully he'll just be able to tap my sander while I wait, and then I'll be able to crack back on with this engine bay. But yeah, I reminded myself today how much I hate bodywork, but it's all part of messing around with these old bangers, I suppose. As I already mentioned, I am going back to the Ace Cafe tonight for another car meet. It's the Passion Ford North London car meet. They're normally really good with a wide range of different Fords. I think some of the West London Classic Ford crew are going, so it'd be good to catch up with them. I've heard that the Cougans are going, and I haven't spoken to them for ages, so yeah, looking forward to catching up with them as well. But I think I'm going to put that in a separate video. So if you thought this video was any good, please do give it a thumbs up and a share. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Click subscribe if you're new to keep up to date with all my future uploads. Check out my website for merch and parts. Feel free to follow me on Facebook, TikTok and Instagram. Massive thanks to all my patrons for your ongoing support. I will leave all the links to all of that in the description, along with my email address for anyone who wants to contact me. But other than that, until next time, thanks for watching.